Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Richland One Board of School Commissioners. Today is November the 10th, 2020. The meeting is now called to order. The first order of business is 4.01, the invocation presented by Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman Devine. If we would all bow our heads. Before we ask you anything, we praise you. Even in the midst of this health pandemic, our systemic epidemic, and this economical crisis, we take this moment to celebrate your great faithfulness. You have been faithful to keep us to tell the story. For that, we praise you. We pray now for those who are in this past year who's lost loved ones, lost jobs, lost homes, or have suffered any loss. We pray that you would restore them through your love like only you can. Now, most gracious Father, we come tonight asking of you wisdom. King Solomon, you said, had it right, to ask of you wisdom to lead these great people. So in this moment of great joy and celebration, we remember that our promotion comes from you, O God, for it is you that rises up one and setteth down another. To the prophet Isaiah reminds us in Isaiah 43:18 that you are doing a new thing. So we celebrate that. And as we do, may we defer to the book of wisdom, Proverbs 3:6, that tells us in all our ways and doings, we will acknowledge and seek you first, allowing you to direct our actions as we go forward. May we take on the mindset of your son Jesus in Philippians 4:2-5-7, as he demoted himself to nothing. That humility and servanthood, may it be our greatest strength. That we remember that all those that got us here to this point and all those that fought to remove us, and that we do just as our president-elect said to do. May we lead not by the example of the perceived power we've been afforded, but that we lead by the great power of our example. Examples to our children and all future leaders. In your son Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson, for that, for those words of invocation on tonight. We appreciate what you do in the greater Columbia community. Next on the agenda, I do want to note, just for freedom of information purposes, the public is provided access to live streaming of this meeting via the district's website, www.richland1.org. Next on the agenda is 4.02, the agenda adoption. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Anderson to move for agenda adoption. Now comes the point of question or discussion. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll now move to cast our votes. We will be manual on tonight. So all those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it, so ordered. Just before we start the school spotlight, I do want to note that all 7 board members are present tonight, and we will recognize at appropriate time our 2 newest board members, Ms. Angela Clyburn and also Ms. Tamika Myers. Welcome to the board. Looking forward to working with you all in the future as we move together as a board. So next on the agenda is 4.03, school presentation presented by Commissioner Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lower Richland High School. Generations of families have been educated at Lower Richland High School and have gone on to become great and productive citizens across the globe. The school was constructed in 1923 under the name of the Consolidated High School No. 1. In 1942, the school's name was changed to Lower Richland High School. As school districts began to merge and desegregate in the 60s, enrollment increased. Over the years, many additions and renovations occurred to meet that ever-increasing demand. And today, Lower Richland High School enrolls 1,200 students. The school is located in one of the fastest-growing areas of the county. Renovations and additions funded by the 2002 bond issue approved by the district voters allowed Lower Richland High to meet the needs of an increasing population in a state-of-the-art facility. Students now can enjoy additions, which include a new student commons area, enclosed corridors, an auditorium and PE support area, as well as centers for drama, art, and dance. Extensive renovations were made to classrooms, walkways, cafeteria, gym, locker room, and band chorus area. And might I add, in recent years, the renovations of the Richland One Stadium at Lower Richland, 50 years in the making. Dr. Erica Hersey will now come, the principal, will come forward with the school's presentation. Hersey.
Good evening. I am Consuela Middleton, and as student body president of this phenomenal school, I would like to welcome you to the Diamond Mine. The mission of Lower Richland is to educate us through innovative learning experiences, which will develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring students who will promote a better, more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. I am delighted to share with you that they do exactly what our mission states. The teachers here have pushed us to develop both academically and socially. As a senior, I can say that my experiences at Lower Richland have certainly prepared me as I began to transition to my post-secondary education. Lower Richland currently offers students a comprehensive curriculum where they can enroll as International Baccalaureate diploma or career program students, take courses to become a career and technology completer, or enroll in STEM courses offerings, which include the incorporation of the arts. During the spring of 2019, we successfully completed our IB diploma in career reaccreditation. In 2020, adding the middle years program to include our sister middle schools, Southeast and Hopkins. In addition, just 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to participate in our STEM reauthorization visit. This experience allowed me as a student to help highlight the wonderful experiences I received at Lower Richland. We are delighted to announce that because of our hard work, student interviews, class visits, virtual and in-person displays, LR received reauthorization for another 5 years, making us the third school in the nation to be authorized under the Cognia standards. I thank Dr. Hersey, her administration, and our dynamic teachers and staff for continuously working to provide their students with real-world experiences. It would take us weeks to share all of the great things happening here at LR, but I wanted to share with you a condensed version. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Can we give another round of applause to Consuela? I had the opportunity to watch that young lady from kindergarten up to this point, and she's been a phenomenal student all 12 of those years, all 13 years, because that was kindergarten. At this time, Mr. Chair, I believe that concludes the spotlight for Lower Richland High School. We'll turn it back over to you at this time.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Harris, for that, and thank you to our student tonight for presenting the school spotlight. Dr. Witherspoon, did you have any comments or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly thank Consuela for her presentation and all the great things that have been going on here at Lower Richland High School, and did have in the superintendent's report to speak to their recent STEM reaccreditation, but she so adequately spoke to that. Again, congratulations to the staff, the administration staff, and students here at Lower Richland for all the work that they do. And also, they have an award-winning junior ROTC program here too that hosts a summer ROTC STEM program for ROTC units here in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And they've been doing that for several years, and not this past summer again because of COVID-19. But congratulations to the school and all the hard work that they do to prepare students. Our mission statement indicates so they can realize their dreams and their potential. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Witherspoon. Next is item 5, consent agenda item. 5.01 is the minutes. 5.02, contract extension, application management software solution. 5.03, contract extension, grant management services for Magnet Program Assistance Program, Magnet School Assistance Program. 5.04, memorandum of agreement, C.A. Johnson Priority School, JAG, Jobs for America, grant renewal. What is the pleasure of the board as pertains to the consent agenda items?
Move for approval, Chair.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bishop, second by Commissioner Harris to approve said items. Now comes the point of question or discussion. Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Dr. Witherspoon, on the JAG, the C.A. Johnson, the Priority School, I'm assuming that's something that, conjunction with the Department of Education. Am I remembering correctly that the board actually needs to also get some sort of a report, either on a quarterly basis or an annual basis, on the progress of the school? I remember, was it last year that we got a really, really great presentation by
We
one
did
of
the individual that was in that meeting.
Excuse me?
The individual that was in that position.
Right. And so there is no such presentation this year to tell us how well and how progressing.
There's a different, that personnel has changed. Dr. Prince is here, and I think he may have some stats on the program that he
Good evening, Chairman Devine, members of the Board of Commissioners, Dr. Witherspoon. The program is still in place at C.A. Johnson High School. There was a staff change last year, but the program is still operating as it normally would. Prior to COVID last year, the school had one of its biggest interview days where the students participated in mock interviews with members from the community and with the school district level administrators. So we continue to have a certified person in place. The program houses 40 students. The limit is 50 students total, so we are making pretty good progress this particular school year.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part? I did not hear well.
The memorandum of agreement calls for the program to house as many as 50 students. We currently have 40 students enrolled in the program.
Okay, and what was the graduation rate?
For C.A. Johnson High School,
No, for the particular, last year, I believe that when the lady came in front of us, she said that, I believe she said that they had 100% graduation rate from the kids that were enrolled in the program. So I'm just curious, that was in 2019. So for 2020, what was the percentage of the kids that were enrolled in that program graduating?
I don't have that data right now, but I can get it for you, Ms. King, but it is not, it does not go below 80%. So those students were successful, but I'll get that information for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Prince.
All right. Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, hearing none. It's been moved and properly second. We will vote manually. All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it, so ordered. It is unanimous. The consent agenda item has been approved by the board. Next is Office of Operations. If we can take 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 together, and then we'll take 6.4 separately. 6.01 is contract, survey, and statistical data software. 6.02, contract replacement switches for voice over IP. And 6.03, contract laptop headphones and accessories. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Bishop to approve said items, 6.01 and 6.03. Now comes the point of question or discussion at this time. Ms. King and Ms. Anderson.
Okay, thank you. On the first one, I think I saw Dr. Coleman, I'm assuming That's sort of your area, right? The 601, the survey and statistical data software. Can you sort of give us what it sounds interesting.
It is interesting. So this is Qualtrics. We have always had a very long history of surveying our parents, our students, our teachers, staff in Richland 1. When the pandemic hit, those efforts quadrupled. We were constantly reaching out to parents to get the feedback that we needed to make the decisions, as well as staff. And quite frankly, what we're currently using now is a version of SurveyMonkey that just does not meet our needs. We're limping along with a very inexpensive product, and to do the kind of analysis in the time that we'd like to do so we can continue this effort of getting feedback from our community, it's time for us to move to a more sophisticated survey software. So Qualtrics, what does it do that SurveyMonkey won't? It's going to allow us to integrate with PowerSchool so we can send specific emails to you about your kids. So when we ask, do you want your child to come back in phase 2? Do you want your child to stay virtual? You would have gotten one for all 3 of your boys, correct? So it would have been personalized to you with this new software. In addition, when we did our first survey of staff and parents, I want to say it was in June, we had 8,000 pages of open-ended comments, and it took 5 staff members 2 full weeks to do that qualitative coding. Qualtrics has artificial intelligence that will pick up those themes and do that coding for us. So it'll be a cost savings as far as man hours, allow us to continue to work with our community, be able to produce more information more quickly for the board, for the school administration, the district administration.
Okay, and when we talked about the survey about broadband, not really broadband, but if families had internet, et cetera, and we went into a discussion where we just said it was sort of like a first line of survey to find out, and then we talked about the subtle, the more in-depth questions that really need to be asked, because it's not just having internet at your house. It's the speed, it's how many users, et cetera. Is this also going to help with that, or is that separate?
Well, I mean, this will really collect any data that we want and need to collect from our team. Now, as far as making sure that we're giving getting that granular data with our parents, we've been doing that all along. We've issued almost 5,000 hotspots. It's a combination of those provided by the state and those bought by Richland 1. Every day, we're giving out more hotspots, because one thing we find is, there are families that are continuing to go into financial crisis and need that assistance. So we have a process now where we get them out to the families within a few hours.
Okay, is this in-house? It's a software that will be in-house, and your shop will be sort of. Okay, so we're not outsourcing really?
Oh, no, we'll still write the surveys.
Okay.
This is just a platform for it to allow that integration, so we can specifically target who we're sending the survey to, specific for every child. So Mr. Devine would get 3 different surveys, 1 for each of his children. And then it'll also allow us to do that artificial intelligence. Honestly, it's just a much better product than what we currently have. We currently have 1 level up from the free version for survey software, and this is going to allow us to be more sophisticated and deliberate with our analysis.
Okay, very well. I don't know if Ms. Anderson or anybody else has a question about this.
No, go ahead and you finish your questions.
I'm done with this one, so I was going to get to the next
Go ahead and
one.
ask your questions, and then we'll go back to her.
Okay, the switches, by when should they be installed? Before we can do the installation of voice over IP?
So as soon as we get the approval and the ordering of the switches, which they are in stock, they'll be installed immediately so we can begin the upgrade.
Okay, and when I was listening to committee meeting, it looks like the switches that we currently have are fairly new. Is there a secondary market that we can, are we able to maybe sell used switches, or is there a secondary market for this? Because, it kind of hurts that we're, essentially, I mean, I understand we need to get to the next level, right? But at the same time, we just played about a year or a year and a half ago for new switches.
Sure.
Is there a secondary market to repurpose these and even recoup some dollars?
I'll have to find out the answer to that question and get back with you, Ms. King.
Okay, all right. And then my last question is regarding the laptops and headphones. I'm assuming that this is mostly for when the kids are in class and the teacher is doing synchronous and asynchronous. And so in order for them to, not have a cacophony.
Yeah.
And is
exact-
that pretty much that? Does that
Yes,
mean that
ma'am.
the kids are going to have the headphones? There will be headphone breaks, I'm assuming.
Sure.
But-
So they're going to serve two purposes. One is when we made the decision that phase 2 would be a dual modality for secondary, I called a teacher from each of the secondary schools and said, from a technology point of view, what do you need to make this easier on you? And there were a couple of things that they came out with. One is the laptops, which we approved during a previous board meeting because they expressed a desire to have a dual screen system to watch kids in the class and then kids who are at home. The other thing they talked about were the headphones with the microphones, because as you can imagine, if there are 4 people in the class and 4 people at home, and we all have Teams turned on, the feedback becomes very unbearable. We've had that happen when we've all been sitting in meetings before, right? So the headphones will minimize and allow the students in the class to hear the kids at home and without causing a disruption. In addition, if we run into a situation where we have a larger number of students than can be socially distanced who are in person and we have to split them, let's say we have to put 5 kids in the back of the auditorium at LR for a biology class, then those kids can log into Teams and have the headphones and still participate in that classroom. So when we talked with the teachers, they felt it was another way to kind of minimize the disruption, to try to ease that dual modality, and so that's why we're making the purchase at this time.
Thank you, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Devine. So, Dr. Coleman, and I remember asking this question, so I think Commissioner King pretty much covered the question for me. I did want to ask, though, these headphones, will they stay on campus? Is this something that the students will take? And also, the question with regards to them in the classroom, these headphones are for them as they're virtually, because they will still be on Teams in the classroom as what, so help explain that again to me one more time.
So if you're teaching biology at Lower Richland,
Right,
and half of your class is physically sitting in front of you, and half is at home.
right,
Because they're on B day, and A day's in the class, and B day's at home, right? The only way that the teacher is going to be able to teach all of the children and share the same materials is to utilize a Teams platform. One thing we know is if everybody right now were to open up WebEx or Teams and you were hearing me speak through this microphone, but you were also hearing me through Attorney Williams' computer, Dr. Vesey's computer, Ms. Matthews-Hazel's computer, you would have awful feedback. So the teachers asked, could you buy us headphones with microphones so the kids can interact with one another without causing the disruption in the class? Now, your question in committee was a good one, which is, are the kids taking them home? And we've not gotten to that level of micromanagement with the schools. What we said to the schools was, we have the funds to provide this for you. How many do you need? And so we are letting the schools, because every school is, we're following a similar model, but every school might be tweaking it a little bit so it meets the needs of their kids and their numbers, depending on how many students chose e-learning versus AABB. So we didn't get quite in the weeds like that. We're trusting the principals to make the decision that's best for their kids.
okay. And the reason why I wanted to ask that question again, because I've sat through and watched class for both of my students, and so that's why I wanted to be
Oh, yeah.
clear about it. And also, I've mentioned too, like, I didn't know if those were for home students as well, to keep down, the noise when they're more than one and all that, so on and so forth. But my other question is, which students, like, is it all grade levels that will utilize these headsets?
So we made the offer to secondary, trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can. You know, pandemic's been a very expensive endeavor for everybody in public education.
Right.
The reason we chose to make the offer to secondary is because they would be the only ones doing the dual modality.
Right.
Meaning that they would have in class at home at the same time. Our elementary school teachers are not in that same position. They're doing the AABB. So if I am teaching third grade and this is my class, I only have the ones that are right in front of me. So I'm not then also trying to manage kids who are online coming in at the same time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Collins.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Devine.
All right, any other questions at this time regarding this one item? Seeing none, hearing none, there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it, so ordered. The vote is unanimous. 6.01, 6.02, 6.03 has been approved. Next is item 6.04, reallocation of fund balance, presented by Mr. Carlin.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Witherspoon. The administration requests reallocation of fund balance. The administration is requesting approval of the reallocation of a portion of the fiscal year 2018-19 general fund balance. This will be used for the Richland County Lower Richland Sewer Project. The amount for this request is $500,000. The administration so recommends.
You heard the recommendation of the administration. What's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bishop, second by Commissioner King to approve said item. Now comes the point of question or discussion. Commissioner Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carlin, I'm asking a question for clarification. When we originally allocated the money for the sewer project, the board voted to release the funds that they were asking for at that particular time, but we also voted to set aside that $500,000 in the event that they would need it. So did we necessarily need to vote on it again, being that we had already approved? We said that we would release the funds if they submitted to us in writing a request, and we received that request from the county. So we still needed to vote on it, just for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We never did vote, and I never did set aside $500,000.
Okay,
So we need to vote on it.
I got you.
So I can do that.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, hearing none, we will now move to cast our votes. All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. It is so ordered. It is unanimous. This one item, 6.04, reallocation of fund balance as presented, has been approved by the board. Next is item 7, Office of the Board, 7.01. This is the board report. This is an opportunity for board members to discuss items or things that are happening within the community. At this time, would like to again welcome our new board members, Ms. Angela Clyburn Commissioner Angela Clyburn and Commissioner Tamika Myers. Welcome again to the board. Look forward to your continued work and working with you all in the near future. At this time, I'll open it to board members, or if either of you two would like to say anything real quick, and then we go open up to other board members. We need other questions, concerns. Good, okay. You're good? All right, very good. Are there any other board reports from board members at this time? Ms. King?
Yes,
I'm
thank you,
sorry.
Mr. Devine.
King?
Is there something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I want to share something that has been weighing on my mind for quite some time, which is a board item. So here it goes. Every year, so this is our last meeting, this is our next to last meeting. Our last meeting is in December, right? I mean, we don't have a second meeting in November, apparently, so. But every year in December, at the December meeting, the board votes on a new slate of officers. And I have been told by employees and even a former superintendent that that moment is a moment of discomfort. Why? I want to know why, and it shouldn't be that way. So I say that discomfort is a space for opportunities and growth. Growth, not growth. As everyone knows, I am the elected representative for seat 3. Not just during my 8 years on the board, but extending all the way back to 2006. Seat 3 has never had the chance to serve as chair, nor vice chair. That's 14 years. I want seat 3 to have this opportunity. My constituents deserve it just as much as the constituents of seat 1, seat 2, and seat 4. I have expressed my interest many times, and it is right. And it is just that Richland School District 1 has policies that defend and protect the values of diversity, inclusion, equity, fairness, and respect of all peoples. Opportunities and access, reduction of barriers are part of our values. And the board is centerpiece. Any board member that expresses interest should have a chance to serve in any of these positions, and especially as chair. All other seats have had their chance, or their turns, you can call it, and some many times over. It is not about leadership, a word that's used and very much misused. I believe that anyone on this board can and should have the opportunity to serve in that capacity. I have expressed my interest and desire to serve in a chair capacity, and I renew that interest when elections come in December. The principal duty of a board chair is to set the agenda with the superintendent and to preside over the meetings. In my view, the most important quality or qualities of a chairperson are impartiality and fairness toward all board members, transparency, and excellent communication, collaboration, and inclusion. I don't feel embarrassed by bringing this openly. I want change and openness, and I want inclusion. 14 years? That's enough. We need to change this process. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments at this time? Commissioner Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me first start by congratulating my two newest colleagues, Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Clyburn. We welcome you to the Richland 1 Board of Commissioners. Hard work, but hard work. So we're glad to have you on board. We just want to welcome you. I want to take this opportunity to thank my community, my constituents, for seeing fit to reelect me to come back and have an opportunity to serve the children of Richland 1. As I stated earlier in my oath, this is a renewed commitment to continue to be the voice for children regardless of their social and economic background or status, regardless of their race, their zip code, their disabilities, or whatever else. But that children all have a fair opportunity to be successful, whether it's going to college or whether it's going straight into the workforce or whether it's going even into the military. Our district has done an outstanding job with creating pathways for our children. And I think that is so important. Nobody's path to success is the same. So we're appreciative of the community. We're appreciative of the voters who got out and voted to make sure that Commissioner Harris had an opportunity to continue to fight and advocate for the children of Richland 1 for 4 more years. We do not take that lightly. I wanted to just express that, and then I wanted to share a concern that I had, or better yet, let me just share something with my colleagues. Back in August the 27th, I was approached by a pastor within this awesome Lower Richland community to be interviewed on a show called Community Connections. I was excited to do it because this particular church had a partnership with this community and with this very high school that we're sitting in today for the past 10 years. And it was a partnership that we had an opportunity to develop over the years. This church, without fail, for 10 years, have fed the varsity football team, and anyone that's got football students know they eat. But this church volunteered to feed these students without fail every game for 10 years consecutive, as well as adopting one of our elementary schools here locally to provide a teacher's luncheon for 10 years consecutive. And that just scratches the surface of what this particular church has done, because here recently, Dr. Witherspoon, with COVID, they came back and called and wanted to know how they could help us. And that church, again, along with many other churches down here, took it upon themselves to transport meals to our children during the pandemic and did it without fail. We're very appreciative of that. It has been a practice of this district that we present what we call resolutions, special resolutions of thanks to individuals. Many of you witness when we lose employees in this district, we offer a resolution where we honor that particular employee for their services. And one of the things that I know Dr. Witherspoon and Mr. Chair and Mr. Bishop, we attended a funeral where we made a presentation there to the family, a special resolution on behalf of this district, Commissioner Anderson honoring this particular employee who had worked for the district for 29 years. And I could go on down the list for the past 2 years, the amount of funerals we've had to attend where we've been offering these special resolutions of thanks. Many of you know about the master classes that we do where we've brought in all of these awesome performers that work with our students. And again, we offer special resolutions of thanks to them as well. This particular church, going back to my original statement on the 27th, recorded this special event, and at that such time, we requested of the administration a special resolution of thanks, because here's a church that has taken their offering money and feeding our children for 10 years without us asking them to do it. And at that particular interview, we presented to them a special resolution of thanks, because that's fitted. They don't have to give their offering money to us, but they choose to. We gave that to them, and it was a concern raised that really bothered me, that the pastor of the church asked me to bring the resolution to the church so that the church could share in the celebration, even though we had done this back in August. And in doing so, it was a concern that said that while I was on the campaign trail, that, this was being used as a campaign ploy. And if you recall a previous meeting where we discussed the one-time bonus for our staff, it was then implemented then that was a campaign ploy. And I want to say to Richland One family, I don't need a campaign ploy. My work speaks for me. I advocate for every child in this district. And there are very unique opportunities in the Lower Richland community that my children don't often see because we are rural. So Commissioner Myers, I have to rely on the faith-based community. As a matter of fact, I've requested 2 more resolutions because I have a church that on 4th Sundays, the offering comes to this high school to provide a food pantry for students that don't eat over the weekend. And then I've asked for another resolution, Ms. Anderson, because I've got another church that since 1997, have been providing backpacks for children that don't eat in this community. And I'm not saying that to slight anything that happens in the city of Columbia, but I just find it very degrading when someone can insinuate that my efforts to thank someone for looking out for children, regardless to whether I was on a campaign trail or not. I've been a board member for 8 years. And my work didn't stop because I was campaigning. My work continued. And it bothers me, and I'm grateful that that pastor was supposed to be here tonight with us. I'm grateful that he's not here, because it's an embarrassment to know that someone or someone's would feel that telling someone thank you for feeding my children for 10 years, never asking for a dime. And I'm talking about catered meals. I'm not talking about what's cooked in your kitchen. I'm talking about a caterer, a church paying for them to come and feed the children who we say we love and we care about. That it becomes an issue because that pastor asked me to be interviewed on his Partners Connect program, where we talked about the value of partnerships in the community and how this rural community has to rely on church. Weber has to rely on churches. Gaston has to rely on churches. Lower Richland has to rely on churches. I don't have a McDonald's on the corner. Miss Wilson, I don't have a Hardee's down here with Wi-Fi. So what my churches don't provide for my children, they don't have. But Mr. Chair, I have to address it because it's offensive to say that giving a church, a pastor, and his congregation, Dr. Witherspoon, a note of thanks. The resolution is nothing but a thank you card. Now, if there's anyone don't want their name on the card, then say you don't want your name on it. But how dare you insinuate that we're doing something mischievous or dishonest? We don't operate like that. But at the end of the day, we owe it to people. You know, in the Bible, when he healed the lepers, one turned back to say thank you. I guess I'm the leper. Because I'm not going to stop thanking people for helping us raise this village. We all have a responsibility as board members or not to go out and create partnerships for our schools. And that partnership that I started 10 years ago with this church was intentional because there were disparities. There were things we didn't have, but we have them now because churches stepped up to the plate. And I just want to share that because at the end of the day, I didn't know we have to vote or need to vote to tell somebody thank you for helping us help our children. Now, I'm going to cut it off right there, but I needed to say that because I said earlier, this is a renewed Cheryl Harris, energized, and I'm ready to go. We got 23,000 children that depend on us, and we got to stop the petty foolishness. The election is over. And whatever those results are, they are. Let's move on if we are serious about educating kids. And stop all this other stuff. Because my mouth will not be silenced in thanking churches that give of their dollars and cents to help our children. How dare we not want to tell people thank you? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Are there any other board reports at this time from board members? Bishop.
Commissioner Harris, first of all, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Harris, thank you for your courageous dialogue. Most of all, thank God for that church that does what people of my faith call kingdom work.
There are many.
And some people may call it community work. Family that prays together, stays together. Imagine what a community does when we stay together during times like this. And that church deserves more than a thank you. They deserve support to continue to do that kind of hard work. And I don't think anyone should stand against that because when you stand against that type of movement, you stand against children's well-being. And I don't think if you are in any place of leadership, that if you care about children, you should have an objection to someone saying thank you for caring about the children. I want to also recognize a community organization that has been a part of buying headsets. Men of Omega Psi Phi Omicron Phi chapter bought a number of headsets for children to support what Dr. Coleman just finished talking about. Y'all, we need the community. And this community needs to stand together like never before. But however, there are fractions that want this community to be separated, divided, wants to put a narrative that, you know, we are not doing well by children. But I believe we're doing the best. Is there a little more work to do? There's always work to do. That's why we come here and become people who sit at the table. So, you know, the thing I will leave you with is the Bible says to the least of these. And there are a lot of children that are struggling during this time. And my plea is that we don't find ways to argue about what to do for children, but we align ourselves to do what is needed for children. Because I'm sick of it as well. I mean, it's about giving somebody a chance. Some of the commentary and conversation I've seen recently, it's despicable because people refuse to give people a chance. There's a quote that says this: if we ever stop othering, we'll care about each other. Thank you so much, Chair.
Right? Any other board reports at this time from board members?
I do.
King?
Everybody on this board cares about houses of faith or any partner in this district. And we say thank you. No one objects to say thank you, ever. But a resolution is a formal process. A resolution is a legitimate document that goes through a process of vetting and a vote by the board. It says clearly on behalf of the School Board of Commissioners, and it lists every single commissioner. It is signed by the chair, and it is given after the board has voted on it. The vote is recorded in the minutes. That's what makes it so valuable. We can always say thank you from the heart, 10 times over, giving parties, etc. We always say thank you. But we do have a process for resolutions. We have a policy that says that we follow Robert rules, and resolutions have a formal process. Anyone, and it's great, anyone on this board can ask to have a resolution issued for a member of the community that has done special things, etc. Everybody in their corner of the district has people who have worked for years and years and years for children. That is not what is at issue. What is at issue is the formal process of issuing a document that means something, that goes on record. And this did not happen. It just didn't happen. My name is on that document, and I didn't even know that it had been issued. I wanted to be in part of the process. I wanted to say, yes, I will vote yes for this organization. The process is very clear, and it is formal. Maybe we should have established a resolution committee, which is actually recommended by Robert Rules, because we also need to, we don't want to just give resolutions here and there and everywhere. There is a value in this document. And when we have employees that pass, they're not really resolutions. We don't vote on those. They're in memoriam of those families, to respect them and to remember them. So I ask that we really look at this and respect the process. It's great to say thank you. No one ever criticizes anyone for saying thank you. I too have a church in my community, Eastminster Church, that has been serving for 14 plus years, the football team. Thank you is great to recognize, but there is a formal process. And with everybody's name on that piece of paper, it has to go through a vote. It is a piece of value. That's why it's called a resolution. The board resolves through a vote. I am asking you to not shortcut this. Otherwise, we diminish the value. And of course, after we vote, we want to present that to those organizations as a board and say, we're all behind you. I'm just asking that we respect the policies and the processes that we have in place. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Harris.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Attorney Williams, resolutions, bond resolutions, formal? Formal? Because those are bond resolutions, correct?
Yes.
Contractual resolutions with companies, things of that nature, resolutions that we have to vote on.
Vote on those.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, when we do the master's class, which my fellow colleagues, all on the stage, except for the two new ones, have all presented resolutions on behalf of the board, special resolutions to Angie Stone, we can name them all. Did we vote on those resolutions, those special resolutions?
No.
Okay, but we
district did not
did
vote.
give those notes of thanks to those individuals on behalf of the board. Many of the board members up here right now presented those resolutions, correct?
That is correct. As a precedent that has been done for a number of years, at least 23, probably longer than that.
How many years?
23.
Okay.
I've been here that long, and when individuals died, students have done certain things in the district. We have guests that come to the district. Those types of resolutions were not voted upon, and it's been a precedence
Right.
for that to happen that way for, I know, at least 23 years. But bond resolutions, the Snyder Project, for example,
Right.
that resolution was voted upon.
Right.
Other resolutions have been voted upon where the district is actually spending money and so forth. Those resolutions have been voted on in finance when they carry over certain funds. That has been voted on by the board, but basically to acknowledge an individual or individuals, to thank individuals, resolutions have always been done to say thank you, deceased members, to say thank you to the family
Right.
for the work done throughout the district.
Okay. I just needed that clarified because, you know, we can dance with the word resolution, but there's a part of our business as board members that is the process, the bond resolutions and those things that we have to sign multiple pages for and things of that nature. But I don't want to get trapped up or crossed up in the word resolution when this is not conducting business dollars and cents and things of that nature. This is just simply saying thank you. I don't see us voting. I've never seen us voting, Mr. Chair, on any of the resolutions for the master class. And that's a thank you. We even make a lot of these folk honorary Richland One family members. Happens quite often, happens on a yearly basis. Never been an issue, never been an issue. Resolutions have been given out to a lot of organizations and clubs that work with this district for a number of years, and it's never been an issue, but it all of a sudden turns out to be an issue now, here, recent, for whatever reason. But that's fine and that's good. Mr. Chair, I'll yield with the discussion, but I don't want us to get the formal resolutions of bonds and things of that construed. Policy is BDB. I read them, okay? And it even gives some examples, correct? Attorney Williams, is not examples of what those resolutions are in that for us?
I'm sorry, repeat
There
that.
are examples listed that kind of show us what those resolutions are, right?
Specific information is found in policies in terms of,
Of what those bonds are.
yeah, there are some
Is
specific
it listed that
ones.
we have to vote to say thank you to a church or an organization for helping the district? It talks specifically about resolutions that involve dollars and cents and, like we said, the bond and stuff like that.
That's what has been done
Okay.
since I've been in the district, and my understanding prior to my coming to the district.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Williams. I just needed some clarified, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. first of all, I want to say welcome to our new members of the board. Thank you. I look forward to working and serving with you guys. Chairman Devine, as I've been here for 2 years, and I'm the baby still. I mean, not the baby still, but I'm the baby still. And I've heard since I've been here that the business of the board of directors, is policy making and governance, right? And we've had this conversation, sir. So I take privilege now to say that I look forward to the board getting to the business of the board and really diving into, we've had this conversation, diving into our policies and really giving a second look, a third, fourth, and fifth look, and getting to the business of making sure that our policies, that we all know them for one, and that we operate in the business of the board, which is staying focused on the policies that are going to assist, bless, and address the needs of our children. And so I'm ready to move a motion, whatever I need to do, but I'm ready to dive into the business of the board, which is getting to looking at reviewing our policies and making sure that they are equitable, that they are of a diverse nature, and that they also have inclusion in it. Thank you, sir.
Right. Dr. Witherspoon or Attorney Williams, when do we anticipate bringing policy updates to the board?
If I may, we started that process already, but, we were delayed because of the pandemic and all of those policy changes that we needed to make. So we're going to start back on that process of going back through all of the sections of the policies. Information has been distributed to some of the departments already, and we've given a date in terms of how far back you go, because some policies have already been updated within the past couple of years, but anything beyond that, probably 3 years, they'll be looking at all of the policies. We're going to go through every single one of them.
I know during my tenure, typically policies are brought to us twice a year. Is that correct? In the spring and typically in the fall? Typically
Yes.
during a non-pandemic.
South Carolina School Boards Association, they do make recommendations.
Correct.
But
So
we also just need to look at some of them, because they don't give us a recommendation for all of the policies in the manual coming forward, but ever so often it's just necessary for us to take a look at all of our policies, and our intent was to do that last year, and we were going to start in the spring. Some of it started, but because of the pandemic, we had to switch off to deal with those initially, and we're going to pick that back up.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Attorney Williams. Are there any of the board comments at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would, at one of the South Carolina School Board Association's conferences, I learned that Greenville School District went through a very extensive and very minutious process of going back through all of its policies. But it wasn't the role of the administration to do that. It was the role of the board. And the board hired a consultant, a policy expert consultant, to look over all the policies and consolidate them and streamline them. And also, which is probably the most important piece that we need to look at, to line them up, make sure that they are aligned with our mission, our vision, our mission, and our strategic plan. And so I move that our board hire a policy expert to do that monumental work. It probably needs that, with a fresh eye, an expert whose job it is to do that, and that will work directly with the board to really make sure that all of our policies are streamlined, that they are aligning well with our vision and mission, and particularly with our strategic plan. I so move.
Second.
Sorry?
I'll second it.
So it's been moved that, and seconded that we look at a consultant to come in and look at the board policies to streamline and, I guess, bring them up to date is what you're requesting?
I believe that, who is the chairman of the Green, Chuck Saylor, is that right?
No, he's
I
not
mean,
the chair.
They,
But is, no, so my question is that your motion? So I can get it on the floor. That's your
Excuse me?
motion? That's your motion?
you want me to restate the motion?
Please.
I move that the board engage or hire a policy expert consultant to work and review all of our policies in direct engagement with the board, with the idea, well, we'll see what they come up with, but with the idea of making sure that we're streamlining what we have and that we are focused on the mission, the vision, and the strategic plan, that our policies are really aligned with that.
All right, that's been moved and properly second. Now comes the point of question or discussion. I do have discussion. So two things. One is that we have an attorney that we pay, and that's part of her job, and she's done that well over the last 12 years that I've been here. That's number one. Then number two, we also pay South Carolina School Boards Association. They send out policies often, and they can give us those policies. Orangeburg School District, who just consolidated, got all of their policies from Tiffany Richardson, who is the general counsel for School Boards Association. We're already paying that, so you want us to spend additional dollars on top of SCSBA and on top of our current attorney? Is that what you're asking for?
I do, because I do not believe that our legal counsel is a policy expert, and so I respect Ms. Williams' work tremendously, but she's not a policy expert. She definitely, part of her role is definitely to make sure that our policies line up with the law, so we're not out of compliance. But I do believe that we have a whole lot of policies that are outdated, policies that, and especially the biggest piece is to really work with somebody who does this all the time, who is able to look at what we have and make sure that it lines up with our strategic plan. That requires an expertise. That's why you have people that do things like that. It's not about the dollars.
Interesting. Not about the dollars. Okay.
It's
So what you're saying is,
a good
so
investment.
what you're saying is that, again, Ms. Williams doesn't know what she's doing. South Carolina School Boards Association don't know what they're doing. So then you want to go outside, spend additional taxpayers' dollars to get someone in here to do what they can already
No,
do.
Mr.
She's been
Devine,
doing it
I
for
did not
23
say
years.
that.
The School Boards Association has been doing it for several years.
I did not say that, Mr. Devine.
But you just said that. You said you don't want to use Ms. Williams, you don't want to use the School Boards Association, you want to use a third-party independent person to do that. That's what you just said.
Your interpretation is offensive. I did not say that.
That is your opinion. And
So
you have a right
why
to
would
it.
why would a school district like Greenville go and others go through the process?
They still use the School Boards Association and their local
No,
attorney.
they don't. They use policy experts.
But they still use the School Boards Association.
Well, if you want
Well,
to
along
use
with-
the school board association, that's fine. But you still have people who are expert in that.
But a policy is a policy. Just like when COVID hit,
You can
the
vote,
School
Mr.
Boards
Devine.
Association, just like when the policy hit, the School Boards Association sent out those policies and we all approved them. Wasn't a problem then. So I'm just trying to understand what's the difference between now and then. I just want to get a better understanding. All right. So no comments. Commissioner Harris.
Chair.
Commissioner.
Let me offer up a substitute motion.
Yes, ma'am.
And the substitute motion is that we work with the School Board Association to review the policies with this board. I don't know how that's going to be done with COVID. May have to be virtual, because the School Board Association does work with the state, every school district in the state, when it comes to our policy that we're using, and we're paying a nice chunk of change to the School Board Association. So I'm going to offer up a substitute motion that we contact the School Board Association to seek their advisement and their guidance in reviewing the policies.
Second.
All right, there is a motion on the floor substitute motion on the floor to work with South Carolina School Boards Association to seek advisement and work to align or get our policies up to date. Right, now comes a point of question or discussion about that one substitute motion. Ms. Anderson.
Well, and I wanted to make a comment prior to Commissioner Harris, but thank you for that. And thank you, Commissioner Devine, for clarifying that the School Board Association, and I could be, I may be wrong to say, but I'm sure that they have policy experts. I can't state that for certain, but so that makes better sense for me. My biggest concern is that we get to that and quickly. And so I agree that, yes, I do believe that if we're already paying the School Board Association, that we should work with them to make sure that we're going through and combing through our policies to make sure they fit what Richland 1 stands for. So I agree with that. That was a comment I wanted to make before, and so I'm ready to go ahead and move forward with that. Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor of the substitute motion to work with the School Boards Association to seek advice and work to align and bring the policies up to date, signify by raising your right hand. See Ms. Anderson, Ms. Harris, Mr. Bishop, Devine, King. Yes, I can't, yes or no?
Yes, of course.
King. And Ms. Clyburn, yes. Ms. Myers, I didn't see your hand. Yes or no?
That, please?
Ma'am?
Can you repeat that, please?
The substitute motion is to work with South Carolina School Boards Association to seek advice and to work to align and bring our current school board policies up to date.
Yes.
All right, so it looks like it is unanimous, 7-0, to approve that substitute motion. So therefore, do we need to go back, Ms. Parliamentarian, to the main motion?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Parliamentarian? All right, we'll go back to the main motion and state the motion again.
I move that the Richland 1 School Board hire a policy expert to look at current policies, eliminating the redundant ones, updating the ones that need to be updated, and align the policies that we have, particularly with the strategic plan. I'm not really sure that the School Board Association does that kind of work.
But you can ask them to do that. They'll do it.
Excuse me?
You can ask them to do that. They would do it. Whatever you ask them to do, they can do. They provide those services.
Well, if that's through them, whatever. I believe it's necessary. Now, I will add to it that it needs to be done. Do we have a time frame? We need to put a time frame on it.
We would have to get with them and see what their time frame is. You know, they work throughout the state, so we have to say, look at our policies. Can you tell us, approximately how long it would take?
I guess what I'm saying.
And you have to do the same thing with a consultant too. You got to get on their schedule. You got to,
No, I understand that,
so-
but it's when you place in the request. I'm just asking that we place the request ASAP.
Okay, so your motion is for independent third party to come in and do exactly what we just said as School Board Association would do. So all those in favor of that
Chair,
said, yes,
Just
sir.
want to make sure that we are clear about what we are voting. If we
So
vote
we're
down,
voting
we vote
for
down.
the original motion, which Ms. King
Yeah.
put on the floor, to get an independent third party policy person to come in here to seek and advise and to work to align our policies and bring them up to date.
So a yea vote is support of that, but a nay vote is not support of that.
That is correct.
Thank
So
you, Chair.
Yes, sir. All right?
Just
Right, that's why actually we had to go to the original motion.
We can go back to the original motion because, a lot of times that becomes a conflict later. But the substitute motion had already passed favorably, okay, that we would go through SCSBA. But if we want to go back to the original motion, we can go back to the original motion. Do we want to hire an independent? Yay. Or if we don't, which we've already voted, to bring in SCSBA.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's double money. That's spending double money.
but go ahead and take the vote.
Yeah, so all those in favor of the original motion, which was to hire an independent third party to come in here to seek advice and to work to align, to bring the policies up to date, signify by raising your right hand. Just got one, that's Ms. King. All those who oppose that, raise your right hand. So Ms. Clyburn, Mr. Bishop, Devine, Harris, Ms. Anderson, and Ms. Myers.
My concern is, was a deadline set on that second motion?
No, so once we get the group ready, the group will then give us a deadline. We have to work with the group. So we can't necessarily set it tonight. I mean, you can say, as soon as possible, but we don't know what that is till you get with the group to tell us what that is.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
All right? So what's your vote?
Nay.
Nay. All right. So you had 1 for it and you had 6 nays, so therefore the motion fails. All right. Any other board report items at this time? So let me just be clear. So it has been moved and approved by this board that South Carolina School Boards Association will seek advice and work to align our policies and bring them up to date. Mr. Superintendent, that's something that you and your staff can work on with us. All right. Very good. We will now move to the Office of Superintendent. The Superintendent's report, Dr. Witherspoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. First of all, I too would like to offer congratulations to our newest board members. Look forward to working with you as well. We are very proud that our high school graduation rate continues to climb. This year, our graduation rate increased by nearly a full point to 82.9%, which is higher than the statewide average for the second consecutive year and is the highest graduation rate in our district's history. The latest graduation rate data was released on October 30th by the South Carolina Department of Education as a part of the 2020 school and district report cards. And again, I want to say congratulations to our students, our teachers and staff, administrators, our staff, support staff, and all members of Team Richland One to help make this achievement happen. We have some great graduation rate teams, graduation cohort teams at our schools. I would also like to thank Dr. Prince, Ms. Jennings, and executive directors of schools, and also in teaching and learning that works with those teams, as well as student support and others. We certainly appreciate that work, and congratulations to all of our school community for that accomplishment. Since our last board meeting, we've also had several of our students and staff receive major honors and awards. Gracie McCoy of AC Flora High School won the Girls 4A State Golf Championship, the first ever state championship win for a member of Flora's girls golf team. Han Middle School won the district's 2020 Middle School Football Championship. The runner-up team was Southeast Middle School. Ms. Rochelle Sinkler of Lewis Greenview Elementary School was named the 2020-2021 Richland One Teacher of the Year, and Ms. Karina Jones of Eau Claire High School is our new Richland One Classified Employee of the Year. Congratulations. Dr. Jameson Browder of Meadowfield Elementary School was named Richland County's Conservation Teacher of the Year by the Richland Soil and Water Conservation District. And finally, Ms. Laura Grisler, also of Meadowfield Elementary School, was selected as the recipient of the Civil Rights, Civil Liberties Excellence in Teaching Award presented by the South Carolina Council for Social Studies. Congratulations to all of our award-winning students and staff. We're proud of the many options we offer students in Richland One, including our magnet programs. Our magnet fair gives parents and students an opportunity to learn about our magnet programs and ask questions such as about the application and selection process. This year, we're planning to hold a virtual magnet fair on Thursday, December 3rd. Be on the lookout for more details soon. Tomorrow, Wednesday, November 11th, is Veterans Day. I want to extend our appreciation to the men and women who have served our country through the military. To any veterans that are present tonight or watching our live stream, and to all other veterans, we salute you and thank you for your service. Next week, November 16th through 20th, is designated as American Education Week. an observance that presents everyone with an opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring that every student receives a quality education. During American Education Week and throughout the year, we thank our teachers, principals, support staff, volunteers, community partners, and all others who help us engage, educate, and empower the students we are privileged to serve in Richland One. By working together, we are and will continue to be Richland One strong. And normally, around American Education Week, we have our Principal for a Day Community Engagement Initiative, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we are unable to have it this year. We thank those who have participated in prior years, and we hope we are able to resume Principal for a Day soon to bring even more community members into our schools and learn what it's like to be a principal and see firsthand the many great things happening throughout Richland One. And finally, the holidays are just around the corner. And since this is our only scheduled board meeting for November, I want to go ahead and note that Richland One schools and administrative buildings will be closed Wednesday, November 25th through Friday, November 27th for Thanksgiving. Regular schedules will resume Monday, November 30th. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation at this time.
All right, this is a information item where the superintendent presented his superintendent's report. Are there any questions regarding the superintendent's report from board members at this time? Commissioner Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Witherspoon, just wanted to ask a question. It's probably Dr. Coleman is probably going to need to answer this for me. We got the grad rate information back, and appreciate you sharing that with us. And we have several institutions that are on us. Was that any of those institutions, I'm curious, on our dropout rate? Did that get impacted? Because
Oh, yes.
I saw something interesting when I was looking at the numbers in comparison, and I know what the district has gone through with getting our prison facility, all kinds of facilities, data off of our district, and God knows I do my best, and I hope my colleagues do too, in helping our constituents understand when you're in the capital city, you absorb a lot of the capitals, the counties' programs. Those numbers have to be tracked somewhere. And I was just curious about that dropout rate. Did we get impacted, Dr. Coleman?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, Commissioner Harris. As you know, the history of that in our district is for the longest time any kind of special institution, whether that was Carolina Children's Home, which is now no longer in existence, whether it was Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center, whether it's Hall Psychiatric Institute.
Right.
All of those institutions hold children who come from around the state. But they all get attributed to Richland One because they're in our footprint. One thing you'll see in our legislative platform, which is coming up soon, is that we take a really firm stance that we will educate every child that comes to us. I don't care where you send them from.
Right.
But we do not feel that we should have to absorb it for an accountability point of view, because again, when you look at large cities, we're going to have more specialized programs that children come to from across the state. Now, we've made some inroads. Alvin S. Glenn, those children, I think it started last year or the year before, they now count on their home school. So now if they're genuinely a Richland One student and they're at Alvin S. Glenn, they do count for our grad rate, our dropout rate.
Okay.
Carolina Children's Home, which I mentioned, is no longer functional. So that's they've transformed into a different kind of service model. But one that continues to impact us is Hall Psychiatric Institute. And that has been a real fight with the state, and a very long fight with the state. The issue with Hall is there is no other institution like that in the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
The students that are there are in a hospital facility, and we provide them education when we can while they're there. Students, the average stay is typically about 4 days. But once you become enrolled in our district, The way that the laws are set up, you become our responsibility. Now, with Hall, they are no longer counted on our graduation rate. However, they are still being counted on our dropout rate, and they're impacting the district, and in particular Keenan High School, by 3 to 5% every year. So when Ms. York brings a legislative platform, we will continue to push that piece. Because again, we want to serve these babies. If you've met the teachers at Hall, if you've met the administrative staff at Hall, they love these children through some really tough situations. However, we recently conducted a zip code analysis because we were hearing other districts were doing that when they were talking about COVID.
Right.
And the thing about our district is, if you don't exclude anybody, we had upwards of 70 zip codes in our district.
Wow.
Now, it doesn't mean there's 70 zip codes in Richland 1, but we had students attending our district from 70 plus zip codes, because we have students at some of these facilities from Greenville, they're here from Horry County, because it's a specialized place. And again, we absolutely will care and teach these children, but we do think it's important for the public to understand that we have a different reality when it comes to the accountability model.
Right.
Because we do serve so many children who don't reside in Richland 1 through our specialized education programs. And those were just 3. I could name others. Pendergrass Fairwald, we take children from others. Brennan has a deaf and hard of hearing program that feeds into Creighton. They also take children from outside of our district. And those are the things that make our district really wonderful, right?
Right.
If you've ever spent time with kids in any of those programs, that's part of what makes us so great. But when it comes to an accountability model that one doesn't want to focus on the child but wants to focus on a number,
Right.
it doesn't tell the real story of Richland 1.
So here's my next question, Dr. Witherspoon. We're in a board meeting. We have advocated and fought to get the prison system off of our district. It's been a long fight. What do we need to do as a board when it comes to, because, and the reason I'm asking this question is because when the data came out about the grad rate, there were those that talked about the dropout rate. So you found yourself having to explain, I think we might have those institutions on us, and, folk are kind of looking at you like institutions, and I have to, explain that when you're in the capital, you're Richland County, you are absorbing a lot on your data. That's not really showing you what's happening in Richland 1. For instance, we can go, 20-something plus years, Alvin S. Glenn has been on Lower Richland.
That's right.
So when folk were saying that the grad rate was extremely low, as a board, as a school system, what we realized was there was no way possible that grad rate was that low when you knew how many came in 4 years ago and all of them walking across the stage except for 2 or 3. Something's wrong. But through a hard-pressed battle, we've gotten that removed to a certain extent. What do we do as a board or ask the chair to write a letter or whatever to the State Department? I believe our superintendent was very open and very helpful in helping to get the prison system taken off the district. And I think we need to do the same thing when it comes to the other institutions, because if you look at this in being fair to our constituents, they deserve to see what's really happening in Richland 1, okay? But they can't see that if we've got 5 or 6 different institutions, which we don't, like, Dr. Coleman said, we don't have a problem with serving the children. That's what we're supposed to do. But it does harm to us as a district to carry data from 70 different zip codes. When we don't have 70 zip codes in Richland 1, but we're carrying that data, and 9 times out of 10, it's not positive data. We've got to call a spade a spade. It's not necessarily positive data. Do we need to have those conversations again with Superintendent Spearman to say, hey, this is what our data looks like? I was in that meeting with the Alvin S. Glenn piece, and she was wowed by it, that the school is looking like it's failing, but it's not failing. It's carrying stuff. Same thing with the district. Same thing with Keenan. Same thing with Dreher having to carry that center. We have to give our community, our parents, guys, a true picture of what Richland 1 is doing. And I think that, I'm not going to say it's a setup, I'm just going to say it's on us, and some kind of way it needs to be either extrapolated or separated or carried or taken care of some other type of way, so that when a parent looks at XYZ High School, they see exactly what XYZ is doing. A principal can only be accountable for what comes in their building.
100%.
So how do you hold a principal in a school system responsible for children from all across the state? You know, and that's not to negate our responsibilities as a district. It's just something we've got to consider. It's a brand new day, and the data has come out as fresh as 2 weeks ago. How do we proceed forward, Mr. Chair? What do we do as a district to make sure that when our constituents look at that data, you see exactly what we are doing? Who is it that we need to talk to at this point to work to get that stuff removed or either separated with this on it, with this not on it? This is where the district is. How do we do that?
Real briefly, Commissioner Harris, we did approach the State Department a couple of years ago about Hall. It came off, but then it came back on. We will, and Dr. Coleman and I have talked about this, we will approach the State Department again about it, and we will certainly keep the board updated on progress on that.
Is there a letter or something that Mr. Chair can write on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to the State Department?
We don't have a problem with that.
Just to, I think it's a good opportunity, guys, for us to clean the slate and show what's really happening in the district. And if there's a means that Superintendent Spearman can look at this and say, you know, we've got to separate this data out because they do owe it to their constituents to see real numbers, you know, versus you're carrying Hall Institute, 400 kids, only 7 was ours. I mean, you're talking about 390-something kids. That's a lot. That's a school.
That's a lot.
That's a school. But, you know, let's not talk about it. Let's put a plan into action. And if the board doesn't mind, I don't know if a motion needs to be made or what, that we submit a letter on behalf of us asking those guys to look at how we can separate out what is happening in Richland 1 compared to us carrying so many programs for our state. Do I need to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay, I make a motion that Mr. Chair be instructed to submit a letter or document on our behalf to Superintendent Spearman in regards to extrapolating the data of a lot of these institutions that's impacting the Richland 1 numbers.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Bishop, to submit a letter to the Superintendent of Education, South Carolina, Molly Spearman, to separate the data as it pertains to those students that are not Richland 1 students, to remove that from our numbers when it comes to graduation rate and dropout rate.
Whatever areas that are impacted, because testing may be impacted as well.
It is.
I think Dr. Coleman would best, probably her and Dr. Witherspoon can kind of
Okay,
put
we
the
can
nuts and
work.
bolts of the letter, because it's testing as well.
All right?
You know, so all of those things need to be looked at.
All right, is there any? No, okay. Is there a motion, is there any questions or discussion regarding this one item?
I do have questions.
Ms. King?
So I thought that we had gone through this already, and we're actually part of a consortium, if you want to call that name, of other districts. I mean, we're not the only ones to have prison and jails and mental hospitals. So it's not Richland 1, it's a system-wide issue, and I thought that we were already in sync with a number of districts to have that addressed, and apparently it's been addressed with the prison system.
Been partially addressed.
Excuse me?
It's been partially addressed
Okay.
with the prison systems, because that rule applies not only to Alvin S. Glenn, but to the prison systems across the state.
Right.
What's not been addressed are special programs.
Okay. But so didn't we think of that at that time? I mean, do they have to be taken as separate issues? Or again, I believe in strength in numbers. If it's not just us, I mean, let's also ask other districts to collaborate on this effort. We're not unique in that situation, right?
I've chaired the Testing and Accountability Roundtable for the state of South Carolina for 9 years.
Right.
And this is a topic that we have brought annually to the State Department since our inception 9 years ago. I believe that the strength of the TAR organization, which is a very well-respected roundtable in this state, did assist in helping get that prison system taken out of our numbers. Now, we brought everything. We got a little bit. So we're not done with our fight. This is something we talk about at every TAR meeting. The bigger districts are more heavily impacted if you're in a major city. So Horry,
Right.
our district, Greenville, Charleston, we work closely together
Okay.
to continue to push the state to find a way to make sure that kids are not counted, because that's the fear, is that if they take them off of our rolls, where do they go? And we have proposed solutions to them for over 9 years. But our districts work together on a weekly basis. The education system in the state of South Carolina, they're very close people.
Sure.
And we have worked on that. We just have not been successful, other than that prison system change, which was made.
So what would a letter do for just from a just single district? I mean, I think that we need to look at doing something more in a concerted effort with other boards. I'm not opposed to it, but I think that if we're looking for efficiency and impact, strength is in numbers, and we're not unique in this situation. Let me set that aside for a second, although we need to do the
No,
is the motion,
we're
or-
still in the motion, so we need to be germane to the motion.
All right. Let me ask you just a quick question. That actually pertains to the motion. On the prison system thing, Dr. Coleman, I think that in the past, and please refresh my memory, we've asked for the actual numbers that impact our graduation rates, or Lower Richland, or other high schools that may be in a similar setup. What are we talking about? What are the actual numbers? Do you have them?
So we no longer have to extrapolate the prison, because they are no longer counted unless they are legitimately Richland 1 students. So the need to do that, we used to do that every year, is not necessary.
Okay.
We used to do the same thing for Hall. We would give Dr. Witherspoon and Dr. Prince, here's projected grad rate with Hall, here's projected grad rate without Hall. We no longer have to do that because they're not counted.
So that's not an issue anymore?
No, that's not the issue. I think what we were discussing is the dropout rate, because that's the one that we've not made inroads on, ensuring that students are accurately counted from their home districts versus where they're receiving services.
And just clarify this again, I did notice, because I looked at the numbers on the graduation rate, and by the way, Keenan did great this year, 80.2, but I did notice about a 7% dropout rate, and I was wondering about that. So now it
5
makes
percentage point of that was Hall Institute.
5%?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what do we do about that? I mean, Hall is, we have a Hall, Greenville has something, Caution has something. I mean, if there needs to be a chair approach, on the board, I think it would be a lot more impactful. I mean, again, I'll vote yes if it's just a letter from us, but I think that it's more, it needs to be bigger.
Okay, all right, let me, let's stay, so we've got a motion on the floor for the chair to send a letter, get with staff to get the proper wording. So are there any comments or questions about
Can I just provide clarification?
about the motion?
To
Dealing
the
with
motion, even
Okay.
to Ms. King's request.
Okay.
When we went after the prison system data, there was a unified effort of other districts.
Okay,
Greenville had the same issue, Charleston, that's why it carried. Right now, us as a district being able to provide a letter, the efforts will continue.
Right.
with those districts that's being impacted as well by their mental health institutions, to have that data extrapolated as well. It's just, we need to put our motion into motion if we're going to do a letter. And then, the reach outs will be made to the other districts through whomever, School Board Association, all those guys, like we did with the prison system. So it's not just us. It's just, we would need to make sure that they know that we have an issue in our district that we've noted, because Lower Richland wasn't the only one impacted. Hopkins Middle School was also being impacted
Absolutely.
by that data, and a lot of people didn't
Hopkins
realize that.
Had an elementary kid, it would go down to L.
Exactly.
And
So
with
it's been-
Hall, it's J.P. Thomas, Alcorn, and Keenan.
Exactly.
Which is why the test score component was important that you added, because if you've got a 3rd through 5th grader at Hall, their test score goes back onto J.P. Thomas.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's not just our high schools being impacted, it's the feeder schools as well.
Right. All right, thank
Just
you.
wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or comments regarding the motion that's on the floor for the chair to submit the letter, get with staff to get the appropriate language to be presented to Superintendent Spearman? All right, all those in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Right, look like it's unanimous, 7-0. So that one item has been approved. I will get with Dr. Witherspoon, Dr. Coleman, appropriate staff to do that. And I meant to, and I apologize, Ms. Clyburn, I did see your hand up, and I apologize to you, but I know you want to continue to talk about this topic. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
so I'm going to risk jumping in and not even having my feet wet yet, but I just on that last area of interest there, as far as the graduation or the dropout rate, and this may be a question for Superintendent
Witherspoon.
I'm sorry, Witherspoon, or maybe Dr. Coleman, but can a special coding system be established, maybe some sort of matrix that will not negatively affect the dropout rate, but I know it's important still for the institutions to, keep track of how their education system is going. Is there some kind of special matrix system that can be established just to not negatively affect our reality, of what our district is doing? So that's my first question.
Okay.
If that cannot be done, can a separate education category be implemented for these special institutions and the way they service, their students, to specifically address the population rate for those school-age kids?
That would be very good questions, and those would be the things that would happen if they came off of us. They would have to be accounted for some kind of way, but that would be under the purview of the state, of how they would do it for the various locations. Hall Institute, for example, the students come from all over the state. So the state would have to come up with a different accounting system. As Dr. Coleman indicated, they don't want the students just falling through the cracks, and we get that. They need to be accountable somewhere. But the state, and they would have to develop that and come up with an accounting system, a reporting system for those special schools and special programs. Our ask is that Richland One's data reflects Richland One students.
Right.
Now, and how the other students are accounted for, that would be the purview of the state.
And thank you. And I did think about, you said that it was taken, off of the
It was
Richland
taken
One
off,
school
and
system.
then, because we submitted a letter, I submitted a letter,
Right.
and so forth, and it was taken under consideration. We received correspondence back, okay, done. And then when we looked up again, so to speak, it was back in there.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering if the state, if they had an issue, coming up with their own system, and is that why they kind of returned it?
Wow.
I don't know. Okay.
All right, any other questions regarding the superintendent's report from board members at this time?
I do.
Ms. King?
Did you have your hand?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Witherspoon, do we have the 45-day count yet?
I'd have to, Dr. Coleman.
We're working on finalizing those numbers this week. That's our major task this week. Even though we hit the 45th day, there's still some cleanup to do, but those have to be submitted to the state by Friday.
So the 45-day count comes from us and goes to the state?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there a deadline?
Yes, Friday.
Is this coming Friday? Okay, that'd be great if maybe Dr. Witherspoon, if you could put that in the Friday board report,
No problem.
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, Dr. Witherspoon, I just wanted to ask the question with regards to our status. I know that the numbers are increasing, and so my question is, where do we stand? What is our procedure as far as how we move forward with the numbers going back into the high standing?
Sure. We sent out a letter on Monday, November 2nd, to staff and students, just speaking to us moving. We were in phase 2 at hybrid, and that we certainly recognize and we continue to look at the numbers. In addition, and I'm just paraphrasing the letter, in addition, we know we do have the mitigating strategies in place. So we know from CDC and other reports that the mitigating strategies do help in terms of lowering risk. That being said, we this week, as I also said in there, we continue to talk to health officials, and later this week we have a conference call with local health officials. We will get some more information, ask more questions and that type of thing. And I do plan on sending out another update, if you will, at the end of this week. That being said, we are continuing to monitor. We have our dashboard up. We stay consistent with the mitigating strategies, and we're seeking clarification on how the health officials and how we need to look at quantifying, if you will, the mitigating strategies relative to the numbers. And as we know, and you all know, we get, okay, when are we going back? When are we, let's go to 5, and we get it, we understand. We absolutely understand it. So we're taking all of that into consideration. I want to have this next conversation with the health officials, get back with our teams, our committees, so forth, get feedback and so forth, and then again share some. And Friday's information we'll have to see, but that might be more. We're still continuing to monitor and take a look. But I know, and as we've said, we'll continue to keep you updated. And some are looking for, okay, what's the number? And so forth. But in addition to that, and what we're trying to, again, quantify is, so what's the number, or how do we quantify what the mitigating strategies, how does that impact the number? So that, and so we are seeking that clarification, if you will, from the healthcare folks. So that we can, because otherwise, if we just quantify without that in there, we don't have the whole picture. And then the other piece is we don't want, and we know, we monitor these numbers every day. Looked at the numbers today. I think it was 245 per 100,000. We check it every day, and I think they update twice a day or twice a week or whatever. But we check it. So we want to be mindful of that, and we also want to be mindful of, we hear, then we go here. Then okay, we went down, okay, let's go back to e-learning. Let's go back to hybrid when we hit here. That's why we want to quantify if we can, and and still have some consistency, because what we've heard from teachers and so forth, because when we move students, I'm e-learning, okay, I want to go to hybrid, well, no, I want to go back, and so forth and so on. We want to make sure, and that's why the last time we said, okay, we'll get back to you, because we don't want the virtual numbers to explode, because every change, sometimes, that's a change in teacher.
Right.
So that's like we know sometimes our transient rate can be high in this district. And we've talked about some of our demographics and our opportunities. I won't call them challenges, our opportunities. But every time there's a change, that's still a change. That's a transfer of grades. That may be a teacher change. It may be.
Right.
So we want to try to balance all of that.
Right.
And it's a lot of things to consider. We admit that. It's a lot to consider. But we want to have that meeting with our health officials. We want to analyze and look at, so how do we use that? What do we do? We continue to stay in contact, as I put in that November 2nd letter, with other districts who have traveled the course, maybe before us. What are their numbers looking like, and how are things working? And that is something Commissioner Anderson and everybody, and I know all things are home and local, but we talk to other districts, and talk with the Midland superintendents, if not individually on a weekly basis, certainly as a group, about every 2 weeks, on 3 weeks, and it's something we all are trying to grapple with. But we will give another update at the end of this week, if it's to keep folks informed on what we're looking at and all of that. But we will send something out again at the end of this week.
Thank you, Dr. Witherspoon, because what I've noticed is that even with students going back into hybrid, some parents are still leaving their students home. And those people that are supposed to be hybrid aren't going to school. And so there's some issues that I've noticed with that as well. So that was the reason for my question.
Sure.
And I know it is, we don't want the back and forth. So I appreciate all your efforts and digging and diving into it to make sure that once we get to where we need to be, we can be where we need to be, if that makes sense. So I thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Any other questions regarding the superintendent's report at this time?
Mr. Devine, I just want to make a positive remark. Dr. Witherspoon, I really want to thank you for the setup tonight. And this is our first, and it's live streamed, and that's fantastic. It is definitely in line with the 21st century, and it's also in line with many of other Richland County and Midlands governmental entities. It's in line with our strategic plan, which is to increase involvement and decrease barriers to access. So thank you, and thanks to the staff over there.
Goes to the team, the staff and the team.
So thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions regarding the superintendent's report? Seeing none, hearing none. Dr. Witherspoon, just a few items that claims come from the chair's desk. Legislative platform, you will get that out to us.
That'll be in the next cycle, Mr. Chair.
All right, we can review that.
Next cycle of committees, and then bringing it to the meeting.
All right, board members, just be on the lookout. We may need to have a board meeting for that. I'm not saying that we are, but we'll do our normal process on notifying you on that. I will get the letter, submit the letter with staff. I will work with staff to get SCSBA's advisement on the policies. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We won't meet again until December the 8th is when our next scheduled meeting is. Happy, again, American Education Week to all of our educators. Thank you for what you do. Again, to our veterans, we salute you. We thank you for the service that you have provided and that you provided for us. Again, to our classified and our Teacher of the Year, we say congratulations to you. Look forward to hopefully having another Richland One State Teacher of the Year in the near future. And again, to our middle school teams, hand, and then Southeast as our champions and runner-up. That was a good night to be out. Superintendent was out there, and former Commissioner Sauls was with us as well. And then to the, is it AC Flora or is it Drea's girls golf team? I believe it was AC
Flora.
Flora, yeah, Flora's girls golf team. Congratulations to them. Job well done. Did want to mention in the board report, and I forgot, talked with former Commissioner Milling. We had a token of appreciation for him tonight, but he had another engagement. He could not come. Didn't want to give him a token of appreciation from the board, but we will get that to him later this week. Myself and Ms. Wilson will make sure he gets that. And I think that's everything on my desk. So there is one announcement. The next regular board meeting of the Richland 1 Board of School Commissioners is scheduled for Tuesday, December the 8th, 2020. So without objection from the board, we now stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Mr. Chair, do we know where the meeting is going to be held? Is it going to be an in-person meeting or?
It will most likely be virtual. We don't know yet.
Adjourn.